July 19th, 1996, Atlanta, Olympic opening ceremony, 3 billion people watching. The final torchbearer was about to be revealed. Then he appeared, Muhammad Ali, the man who once floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee. But now his hands were shaking, his whole body trembling from Parkinson's disease. The crowd gasped. Some people cried because this was not the Ali they remembered. This was a man struggling just to hold a torch. It took him nearly a minute to raise it, his arm fighting him with every inch. The world watched in painful silence, but Ali refused help. He stood there alone, trembling, determined, and when that flame finally ignited, something else ignited too. A question. Why? Why would Muhammad Ali risk humiliation in front of billions? Why insist on doing this alone when his body was betraying him? The answer begins 30 years earlier, with a promise Ali made to a boy he never met, a boy whose name the world forgot, but Ali never did. And that promise would define the rest of his life. Muhammad Ali was born Cassius Clay in 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. His family was poor. His father painted designs, his mother cleaned houses, but young Cassius had something most kids did not: confidence, or maybe desperation disguised as confidence. Because underneath that loud, brash personality was a boy terrified of being invisible. He started boxing at 12, not because he loved fighting, because his bicycle was stolen and he wanted revenge. A white police officer named Joe Martin ran a boxing gym. He told young Cassius if he wanted to beat up the thief, he better learn how to fight first. Cassius stepped into that gym and found his purpose, not revenge, recognition. Every time he won a fight, people noticed him. Every time he knocked someone down, people chanted his name. And for a poor black kid in 1950s Kentucky, being noticed felt like survival. By 18, Cassius Clay was an Olympic champion. By 22, he was heavyweight champion of the world. And the world had never seen anyone like him. He talked constantly, "I am the greatest, I am the prettiest, I am the king." People thought it was arrogance, but it was armor, because deep down, Cassius Clay still felt like that invisible boy. So he made himself impossible to ignore. But fame brought something unexpected: pressure, expectations, and questions about who he really was. In 1964, Cassius Clay shocked the world. He joined the Nation of Islam and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. He said Cassius Clay was a slave name. Muhammad Ali was his true identity. White America was furious. Black America was divided. But Ali did not care. For the first time in his life, he was not performing. He was being real, and that honesty would cost him everything. In 1967, the U.S. government drafted Ali to fight in the Vietnam War. Ali refused, not out of cowardice, but conviction. He said no Vietnamese person ever called him a racial slur. No Vietnamese person ever denied him a seat at a restaurant. So why should he kill them for a country that treated him like a second-class citizen? The backlash was immediate. They stripped his boxing titles, banned him from fighting, arrested him, called him a traitor. For 3 years, Muhammad Ali could not box. The prime of his career stolen. His name dragged through mud. But he did not apologize. He did not back down. He stood alone. And slowly, the world began to understand. This was not just about boxing. This was about dignity, about refusing to be told who you should be. And that refusal inspired millions. By 1970, public opinion shifted. Ali was allowed to fight again. But 3 years away from the ring had taken a toll. He was slower, older. Doctors warned him that continuing to box would damage his brain. But Ali needed to prove something, not to the world, to himself, that he was still the greatest. So he fought and fought and fought. He took punches he should have avoided, absorbed damage that would haunt him for decades, but he kept winning. In 1974, he defeated George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle. In 1975, he survived the brutal Thrilla in Manila against Joe Frazier. Each victory cemented his legacy, but each victory also cost him. His speech started slurring. His hands began to shake. His body was breaking down, and everyone could see it, except Ali. Or maybe he saw it but refused to stop. Because boxing was not just his career, it was his identity. Without it, who was he? In 1981, Muhammad Ali finally retired. His record was legendary, but his body was destroyed. The Parkinson's symptoms worsened. Doctors confirmed what everyone feared. Decades of head trauma had ravaged his brain. The fastest mouth in a sports could barely speak. The man who danced in the ring could barely walk. And the world watched as their hero slowly disappeared. But something strange happened. As Ali's body failed, his spirit grew stronger. He stopped talking and started listening. He stopped performing and started giving. And that is when the real Muhammad Ali emerged. Not the fighter, not the showman, but the man who understood suffering because he lived it every single day. In 1984, Ali began visiting children's hospitals. No cameras, no press, just him and dying kids. He would sit for hours doing magic tricks with his shaking hands, whispering encouragement with his slurred speech. One nurse later said Ali visited their hospital 47 times over 15 years. Nobody knew. He never mentioned it, never used it for publicity. When asked why, Ali said something that revealed everything. Because they remind me I am still alive. Those kids were fighting battles Ali understood. Battles against bodies that betrayed them. Battles nobody else could see. And Ali wanted them to know they were not alone. He wrote letters to young men in prison, hundreds of them, encouraging them to change, to believe in second chances. Most letters were never sent. After his death, his family found them hidden in boxes, letters filled with hope, wisdom, and the same message. You are not your worst mistake. You are still the greatest. But Ali's greatest fight was still ahead, and it would not be in a ring. It would be in front of the entire world. When Ali was asked to light the Olympic torch in 1996, he hesitated. His Parkinson's was severe. His hands shook uncontrollably. He knew how he would look, weak, broken, a shadow of the legend. Friends begged him to decline. Let someone else do it, they said. Protect your image. But Ali refused because 30 years earlier, he made a promise to a boy named Jimmy, and this was his chance to keep it. In 1966, Muhammad Ali visited a children's hospital in Chicago. This was before he refused the draft, before the world turned on him. He was still the undefeated champion, still the loudest, most confident man alive. But that day, something happened that changed him. In one of the rooms, a 10-year-old boy named Jimmy lay dying from leukemia, thin, pale, too weak to sit up. But when Ali walked in, Jimmy's eyes lit up. Champ, he whispered. You really came. Ali sat beside him, did magic tricks, told jokes, made Jimmy laugh for the first time in weeks. Before leaving, Jimmy grabbed Ali's hand. Champ, he said, promise me something. Promise me you will never quit. No matter how hard it gets, promise you will keep fighting. Ali looked at this dying boy and felt something break inside him. He squeezed Jimmy's hand. "I promise, kid, I will never quit." 3 days later, Jimmy died. Ali never forgot him, and when the world tried to break Ali, when they stripped his titles and called him a traitor, he remembered that promise. When doctors told him to stop boxing, he remembered. When Parkinson's stole his voice, he remembered. And when they asked him to light the Olympic torch, he remembered most of all. Standing in that stadium in 1996, trembling in front of billions, Ali was not just lighting a flame, he was keeping a promise to a boy the world forgot. A promise that no matter how broken you become, you never quit. And the world saw it. The courage, the refusal to hide, the willingness to be vulnerable. And in that moment, Muhammad Ali taught his final lesson that true strength is not about never falling, it is about standing back up when falling is easier. After the Olympics, Ali continued his quiet work. He traveled the world promoting peace. He negotiated the release of hostages. He spoke at schools, mosques, churches. His voice was weak, but his presence was powerful. People did not come to hear him talk. They came to see him show up, to witness a man who had every reason to quit but refused. In his final years, Ali could barely speak, could barely move, but his eyes still carried that spark, that refusal to surrender. His wife Lonnie said he communicated through looks. A slight smile meant "I love you." A raised eyebrow meant "keep going." And even in silence, Ali inspired. He taught people that dignity does not require words, that presence matters more than performance, and that the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to disappear. On June 3rd, 2016, Muhammad Ali died. He was 74. The world mourned. Presidents spoke. Athletes wept. But the tributes that mattered most came from ordinary people. A former prisoner wrote that Ali's letter saved his life. A nurse wrote that Ali spent 6 hours with her dying son. A teacher wrote that Ali visited her school and told the students they mattered. Hundreds of stories emerged, thousands, and every story revealed the same truth. Muhammad Ali was greater outside the ring than inside it. His legacy is not about boxing. It is about conviction, about standing for something even when it costs everything, about refusing to let fear, illness, or humiliation define you. Ali could have played it safe, could have stayed quiet, could have hidden in his final years, but he chose honesty, chose vulnerability, chose to keep showing up even when his body refused. And that choice made him immortal, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. His life reminds us that greatness is not about never struggling. It is about how you carry the struggle, not about avoiding pain, but about transforming pain into purpose. Ali transformed his. He took a stolen bicycle and built a legacy, took a slurred voice and spoke truth, took shaking hands and held the torch. If you have ever felt broken, invisible, or damaged, Muhammad Ali's story speaks to you. It says your struggles do not disqualify you. They define you. Your pain is not proof of weakness. It is proof you're still fighting. And as long as you're fighting, you are still the greatest. Ali believed that. He lived it. And he wants you to believe it too. Not because life is easy, but because the alternative is giving up. And giving up is the only real defeat. Muhammad Ali never quit. Not when they stole his titles, not when Parkinson's stole his body, not when the world told him to fade away. He stood, he trembled, he fought, and he kept his promise to Jimmy, to himself, to everyone watching. The promise that no matter how hard it gets, you never stop showing up. That is the real greatness, not the championships, not the fame, but the refusal to let darkness win. Ali faced his darkness every single day, and every single day he chose light. That choice echoes in every person who refuses to quit, in every person who stands despite shaking, in every person who keeps showing up when hiding is easier. Muhammad Ali is gone, but his promise remains, and it is asking you, will you keep fighting? Will you keep showing up? Will you refuse to quit? Because the world needs people who shake but still stand, who fall but still rise, who lose everything but still believe. Ali was one of those people, and his story is proof that even when your body fails, your spirit can soar. Even when the world forgets, your promise can endure. Even when you are breaking, you can still be the greatest. Not because you are perfect, but because you refuse to stay down. That was Muhammad Ali, the greatest, not because he said it, but because he lived it every single day until his last breath.